Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Creative Belief Podcast. This is a curated collection of conversations with creators who believe creativity can change the world. My name is Alex. I get to be one of the hosts on this podcast, and I'm here with my good buddy and business partner, Josh. Josh, how's it going today?
It's going really well. Excited to jump into our conversation today and get going.
Great. Yeah, we're super pumped. So today on the show, we have an absolute marketing legend and an incredible pickleball player, Zach Witzig. Zach is an enterprise account manager at a company called Grow. He's also a husband and a dad. Zach, dude, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Alex. Man, what a fantastic intro. It's two kinds. I don't know if the first two things are true, but the last two, husband and dad, are true. So that's very kind. But man, great to be here. I was just thinking, it's probably been about a year since you kind of got into this whole thing. And I remember us trading text and just really appreciate you and our friendship. And it's been so fun to kind of watch you from the sidelines this last year, and a true honor to be invited on the podcast. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Thanks for that. Yeah, like Zach said, I really kind of leaned on him as someone that I got advice from in starting our brand design studio, creator studio. We met playing pickleball and just kind of hit it off from that and have had that connection ever since. So yeah, man, we are super pumped to have you on the show.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Zach, thanks for joining us. Dive right in here and
cool.
Just would love to get to know you a little bit. Tell us a little bit about your backstory. Where'd you grow up? What were some of the first things that exposed you to creativity, and what drew you into creating?
For sure. I was thinking about when you sent me over the link to this, I was like, man, I'm not really a design person like Alex is, and true creator. But I think what's cool is I think there's different ways to create, and that's probably the purpose of all this, I would assume. But yeah, my background, I grew up overseas in China, so a little different than here. My parents are from Illinois, but they did missions work, or still are doing missions work. So was born in Hong Kong, grew up, spent the first 14 years in Hong Kong, and then in a small town in China. And I think kind of my first foray into creating, like probably any young man, was Legos, and just getting to build out and create there. But man, I think growing up in a different culture from the one that my family was in, being exposed to other people, especially a very group-oriented culture like China, was really, really interesting, and kind of opened up that lens for exploring and seeing the rest of the world through kind of that creative lens.
Yeah, man, that's incredible. I remember talking about that with you, but I'd kind of forgotten, honestly.
Same.
About
it's a different lifetime in some ways.
For sure. And I think, like you said, too, like to reiterate, the thing we want to keep reiterating over and over on this podcast is that like all of us were made to create. Like we deeply believe that, whether you are in marketing, whether you're in like a traditional creative field, like a designer, or like we're hoping to have some folks on the show, chefs. I've talked to my barber asking him to be on the show, right? People who are like creating incredible things and making the world a better place. Creativity is really just solving problems through a creative lens and thinking about ways to make the world better. And so like you are creative and we're super pumped about that. So tell us, as you think about being a creator, right? You're in this world of marketing. I know you kind of have like honed in and specialized in that like email, omni-channel marketing lane. As you're thinking about how you solve problems, what's your creative process? Like give us a little insight into how do you create something new? How do you approach a new project?
Yeah, it's a good question. I get the privilege of serving about 30 different brands right now. So I think one thing that's unique in my space is you get to see a wide swath of brands and products and things that different types of messaging. One, I do have a client that's a pickleball client, so it's a little more close to home.
Let's go.
And I have, some clients that are in the home, repair space, things like that. So you get to see a lot. I do take a page out of, I don't know if you guys have seen Mad Men, but
Yes.
I do, I like Don Draper, his approach. But one thing that he does a lot in the show that I've always tried to do is, he goes out to the area that his client is and tries to be like immersed like in that space. And then he'll
Yeah.
just sit and observe. And so anytime I think about like, creating a project or working with my clients on their creative, I try to get to the spot where they are. Things like pickleball, it's a little bit easier because it's a little closer to home. But
Right.
things like supplements or I have a client, yeah, like in the home repair space. It's like I went to a site with them just to kind of get the feel of how things work and what they're doing,
Yep.
and different things we could try there. So being immersed, I think, is where I like to start and trying to get a feel for it, because it's hard to advise and consult what they're doing if you don't really have a lens through that. But I've always liked that Don does that, and to try to
Yes.
emulate it. Yeah.
Dude, that's so good. Have you watched the show New Girl?
Yeah.
Okay, so that like reminds me of that episode when Schmidt, they're representing that new vodka brand, ABC Vodka or whatever, and they're like, we are going to try every single letter of the alphabet. And it's that immersion, right? You gotta know the product. And that's awesome. So like, as you get immersed, what are the things that you are looking for in that space? What are the things that you're trying to draw out of that experience to help you then create better marketing for your clients?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's nothing earth shattering, I don't think, under the sun anymore. I think, a lot of people know that stories are still the best way to, I think, to connect with people. One thing, and I know, there's a couple questions around, where do you see marketing and creativity heading in the future? I just think in the brand space, at least, like authentic founders are really starting to win out more, because there's so much noise, right? Of, there's all these big brands and people taking your, all the conglomerate, people buying up everything. So there's really some true power in an authentic founder connecting with that story element and then really honing in on how they got started. I mean, even kind of what we're doing right here with you, Alex, and your store with the studio. And I think people really connect with that personality and the kind of authenticity of the founder. So I'm trying to weave in a lot of that with my brands right now, trying to hone in on their unique, what got them there, what is driving them each day, and really taking that human component and tying that in as kind of the angles that I start looking for out of the gate, because that's what people connect with, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's really good, especially in today's world. It's like markets are so saturated. I mean, there's like just sometimes tens of hundreds options in certain things, and to be
really hard
to be unique or to stand out, can be challenging. But I think you're right. When you immerse yourself and you grab the stories of what that brand or that product or what that organization's all about, like those are things that really stick and really show like kind of the uniqueness of that organization. So that's super important, and I love hearing that.
I think
a big part.
That's one thing. And then I think in the theme of creating, I think creating connection. Like, and again, I'm saying a lot of this from a brand, the clients I work with and the projects I've seen, but people want to be connected with, and some of the brands that are really winning right now are the ones that are really creating these like insane tailored experiences for their consumers, for their customers, and really kind of creating this like, hey, we're not just selling you something, we're providing value. We're giving you, other things, how to use it, how to, apply it to your life, how it can change you, and really trying to build out that connection piece. Again, but there's a lot of noise. There's a lot of, things coming into people's world. And To Josh's point, it's getting harder to stand out. So I think that those, creating those connection points for people to really get invested are really pivotal right now.
Yeah, that's huge. And I think personalization is at an all-time high. I think people are starting to expect that in some ways. Mm-hmm. And so as we craft brands, how are we helping? Like for us as a studio, we're constantly like, how do we help our clients create really personalized and intimate experiences? Because people are worn out and tired of the big box brand, the big name, like the thing that everybody can do and get. They want that really unique to them experience. So I love hearing that direction. So Zach, talk a little bit about, right, like you've been in this space. What is one of the best pieces of creative advice that you have ever been given as you've worked through this journey of becoming a killer marketer?
For sure. Again, I don't think it's anything too crazy new, but the one piece of advice I've always gone back to is the best artists steal. And I think that at this point, I don't know how much like net new things there really are in the world. And I think we gain a lot more by just taking something that has worked really well and resonated really well, and then mimicking, copying, taking that. It's a little bit, I think, against the grain of like maybe true creative process, but I just have really, I've found a ton of value in looking at like the top campaigns ever and being like, what worked here? What can we take from them? How do we learn from them? How do we build off of them? And then, iterate and start, kind of creating off of that. But I've always gone back to that. I think you go back through all the artists, both music and just creating actual pieces of art. Like a lot of people are really just mimicking something else and stealing something else. So I don't know how cool of an answer it is, but it's definitely something that I've always tried to like, have a swipe file, have things that like I really like. And try to keep referencing that over and over again and pulling from that as much as possible to kind of get that inspiration and to really hone that creative part is something I've always gone back to.
That's so good. I love that. I love that you call it a swipe file. I've never heard that term, but I love that.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Is it? I've heard people like, right, I got this thing, I collect all these stuff, I throw it in a note, but I love calling it a swipe file. But I agree. Like, Josh and I both would probably say like we are constantly, as we're creating brands, we're looking at what other people are doing and we're saying, how can we mimic that? How can we recreate that in a way that makes sense in our client story? But also like meets the time and tested, proven viability of these brands that are successful. Right? Like there is something I think to be said for creatives about creating something new, but also creating something that works. Like we want to create human-centric design that is solving problems for people and helping these brands move forward and solve the problem, whatever it is. We don't want to just create something new because it's the cool new thing. And so I love that approach of like, let's look at what's worked in the past and let's do that. Because ultimately our goal as creatives is to help the people that we serve, whether it's the brands we serve and their clients, whether it's our own clients here at the studio, it's to help them succeed and like fulfill their goal and their mission. So I love that direction that you're taking with that.
Where do you all get your like inspiration from? Like, do you have a folder or a note or things that you take pictures of, things like that?
Yeah, I wish I was more organized in that sense, but I just have stuff all over. It seems like I think I pull from, if I'm out and about and I see, something that just really, connects with me or emotionally or something I just like the look of, it's like, I'm going to snap a picture of that. I try to dump them into like a folder within my phone or a photo album, but if not, I at least have it in my camera roll. And then just different things. I like, there's a few different artists that I really enjoy their work, and I'm constantly just, maybe following them on social. Instagram is obviously a great visual representation of a lot of things. So I think that I pull a lot of inspiration or a lot of design from them. Both Alex and I are really big into racing. So there's like a lot of things that I just follow that are racing related that, as I see, especially within design, it's like, man, this is really pretty cool. And I think there's a lot of really cool, relevant and new things happening within the design space, even within, racing. That's like just awesome. That I'll try to save in some way, bookmarking things on Instagram, things like that. So I don't know. I've never really been super organized. So my things are kind of all over the place. I know where to go get them. But if you were to be like, can I see that? I'd be like, well, I'm gonna have to pull those together for you. So you can,
I got to find
see
all
them
that
a little bit.
Yeah. It's hard. It's hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard. It's an important part of the process though, too, for sure, because I think like you got to continue to be inspired to see what's working, to be, just refreshed in that design space as well, knowing that, things are always changing almost, or like evolving, even though like you said, like it's so nice. And at times to like take what has been working and seeing, just different design work with other companies or whatever. It's like, sometimes it's even harder to take those things and make them unique, as well. So I think that like some people may think like, oh, it's, you're just kind of trying to piggyback off of so-and-so. And it's like, well, if you sit down and really try to like make yourself, unique in a way that like sets you apart from that other company, even though you're, borrowing or, stealing, whatever you want to call it, ideas, it still is a difficult process to do. And I think that, that it's super important to make yourself unique in that space, but, can be hard.
Yeah, that's good. I would say the other thing too, for me, has been like, getting outside of my lane of creativity, right? So like we're in the brand design space, getting outside of that. So like I follow on Instagram a bunch of like painters. I follow some people who are like dancers, just various things that like, it's a space to watch people create in a different way and be like, man, they're conveying this emotion, this feeling. How can I steal that? And use design, use brand to convey that differently, even in the language that we write. So that's been one. Josh and I have like a bunch of saved Instagram folders that we just like add stuff to as we find it. That's been probably the most organized either of us are in that space.
For sure.
And so, yeah, I think it's just those things like where are you naturally at, and are your eyes open to seeing creativity around you? Has been like the biggest thing for me.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I think I don't know if either of you follow like Dave Gearhart on LinkedIn. I'll send him he's a marketer. He's done a ton of SaaS marketing for a long time, but I think he's the one that came up with that swipe file phrase. But he keeps just like a Google Doc, I think, and just like chucks stuff in there, and then you can like Command F and search everything. So I've tried to keep up with that. It's definitely been something that I wish I updated more. And I've seen a lot of different people who like comment on his stuff and are like, here I use Notion, or I use this, really intricate format. But for me, it's almost like that kind of takes away from like the fun of just like see something cool, grab it, think about it, that type of thing. But I do like to see, how people are finding things and then saving them. I think it's an interesting part of, how you kind of build that base to hop off of them.
Yeah, for sure. I love that too. Just the simplicity of like, just find it and save it. Like, don't overcomplicate the system.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't need to be overcomplicated, right? Like, that's really cool that you have go, Josh, go.
Oh, I was just going to say, no, that's the beauty of it though, too, is like, what works for me may not work for you. But we're all still valuing that part of the process, and we may, as creatives, do that differently, approach that differently. What inspires you may not inspire me. But at the same time, like that part of the process of gathering inspiration, gathering things that, emotionally connect for whatever reason, is pivotal in creating probably most things, if not everything.
Yeah. It's good. So Zach, talk about like, what if you were sitting down with someone, right? And they're like, hey man, how did you get into your career? Like what's what is one piece of advice you would give someone that is just looking for a way to create and is looking for advice on how do I like grow my creativity, grow my space in the marketplace? What would you say to them?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm approaching 10 years since college, which is good and bad. I think it's been good to reflect on that time and be like, what have I gained and learned? And I think the further I've gone down the pathway, I guess, I think the one piece of advice I would give is to try to get more quiet time is not really the right word, but more time to be by yourself and not have a lot of input. As a believer, I think that there's one thing that our pastor said a lot is, you're always getting input from a lot of different places, which as a creative, I think you need, you have to have part of that input.
Yeah.
But there's also a lot of like, when are you getting, input from the Lord or from just silence and solitude and actually using that time to kind of channel your creative outlook then. And really be reflective on your space. So I'm not perfect at it. It's tentatively kind of one of my 2025 goals is I'm trying to walk more and just be more active. My dog helps with that a lot, thankfully. But I'm also just trying to find more time just to have like no other inputs in my life, no podcast on, just sports in the background when I'm hanging out at night, that type of thing. And just trying to just reflect more and be more silent and be more available. It's been really cool because I think so far it's only, been a couple weeks or whatever, but I think it's amazing how sometimes really creative ideas hit you when you're really not thinking or about anything, or you're kind of freeing your mind up to have that space. So I think, maybe the culture says, be grinding and get all this input and, get all these, voices in your head type thing. And I think, I'm trying to find at least some space to kind of just disconnect and then see kind of what comes into your mind at that point. I think is something that I wish I would have started a little bit sooner in my, career and journey. Cause I was, drinking all the Kool-Aid for, several years type thing.
Right. Yeah. And I think like our world, the creative world especially, does tell you like, dude, go grind. You got to work super hard. You need to get up in both creativity and also life. Like you got to get up at 4 a.m. You got to work out. You got to take your ice bath. You got to do this. You got to do that. And like, that's cool if you're an ice bath person at 4 a.m., but I think that sounds miserable and would actually ruin my day. And so I think that like, what is that slow pace?
Alex just takes regular baths still.
I do. That's a thing we can talk about later. I love a good evening Epsom salt bath. Fine. But like, what is that slow pace of? I mean, I love what you said too. Even just like going out for a walk, right? Like Josh, I know you've talked about that and how helpful that's been in like your process. You're just like giving yourself space. I think we don't value the slowness of creativity. We're often just, we got to grind, we got to push, we got to get stuff out the door. And we don't allow ourselves the space to sometimes let great creativity like bubble up in the unbooked parts of our calendar.
Yeah. I could share one quick story that kind of spurred that theme for me this year. I read a book recently. Now I'm going to forget the title, but it was written by the CFO of Pixar. And it was an interesting perspective because you think about Pixar, you think about, the creativity, the design, the movies, the feelings it produces in you. His perspective was, more from like the numbers side and how it, it got acquired and everything. And it was really fascinating. But one thing that spurred my kind of interest in all of this year is he lived around the block from Steve Jobs, like in the same neighborhood. And he said him and Steve would go out on these walks almost every day together and talk and just brainstorm and think about things and just, talk about the future of Pixar and then eventually Apple and things like that. And I just thought if Steve Jobs and this guy can, have time in their days to, just create space to just do nothing other than walk and talk or just walk in solitude, like he did a lot too. I was like, okay, I'm not that, busy. I'm not actually like,
Right.
I have time of my day to, get going. So I really hung on to that. And there's a lot of cool things from that whole story, but, I just really saw, and again, I think a lot of people are realizing, walking and we're designed to do some type of physical activity, and it does lead to helping us, be better people, better creators, I think, better
Yep.
husbands, dads. So yeah, trying to take care of that physical side, I think is really pivotal, but I just thought that was really cool. That
Yeah.
again, Steve could make time for that.
Yeah, that is really pretty neat. And it's cool how, like, just as humans, as we grow older and evolve, or as we learn different things, it's like we start to, you know, our lives around us change when you become parents. Like, sometimes it can mean running from ball game to ball game, or
Yeah.
and it's hard to get those moments even within your own family sometimes, to slow down, to
Yep.
enjoy those moments as well. And it's like you're constantly fighting the culture of grinding, or of just go go go. And it is at times just a battle and a fight that you have to kind of stand your ground at times and be like, no, this is important to me.
Yeah.
This is important to my family, whatever that might be. And
Yeah.
allow yourself that space to really reflect and to gain almost some interpersonal, emotional inspiration, or just make sense of some things around you.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing that's been hard for me in this season, really the last 12 months or so, has been I'm on, I get to, be on all these calls and work with all these clients, but I've shifted into more of a consultant slash, project manager type role. And I don't actually get to do the actual creating anymore. And so it's been an interesting pivot of like, I know what I think is good and what I like, but all of a sudden I'm like doing a lot more Zoom calls than I am of actually going out and getting the chance to be immersed like the way I want to, or get a chance to kick stuff around with our creative producers. So I think that's been one thing that's been interesting. I've been trying to find other ways, not even just in work, but outside of work, to kind of scratch that creative itch a little bit and get to build and do things. Because it is hard. Like there's seasons where I've been a lot more involved in the actual creation of some of the ads and things that we're working on. But this season right now, it's been a lot more like 30,000 foot. Don't actually get to, be the one who's, making everything, which has just been a big change.
You'll have to bust out the Legos with your kids.
Exactly that. Yeah. I did build some Legos this Christmas for sure.
Yeah, I know.
Bro,
my daughter got a couple that I'm like, oh, I forgot how complicated some of these things are.
Right? Well, and like also how far Lego has come.
Yeah.
My son is like crazy into Lego. So like every set he gets now, like all the bags are numbered and you go in order. And I'm like, when I got a 600-piece Lego set as a kid, it was like, everything's on the table. Good luck. You're going to be here for a couple of years figuring this out.
I just added it to the bucket of the rest of my Legos and built whatever.
And our son's over here like knocking out stuff in like an hour and a half. And I'm like, that would have taken me my entire Christmas break. So what a life.
Hey, if you guys haven't read the Lego story, I
haven't read that one.
It's how a little toy sparked. I have it pulled up here. I was looking at my notes from it the other day. How little toy sparked the world's imagination. I'll send it to you guys. It's written by the former CEO and a great book for thinking about creativity and how. And really, for me, it was. There's some story in there, like the original Lego factory burned down like 2 different times. And he had to literally rebuild everything, like his whole business twice over.
Right.
It's like once wouldn't have been enough, for me, but he had to do it twice. But really, really cool story, and obviously amazing company. But
Was the Pixar book Creativity Inc.?
It was to Pixar and Beyond. I just looked that up too.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, I can drop these over to you guys.
Yeah.
But,
we'll link both of those.
Company.
Yeah. We'll link both of those in the show notes too, if you want to grab those.
Yeah, I'll drop my affiliate link and get some commission. Yeah,
Let's go.
no, there's no commission, no commission.
No, I know. Just good books we like on Amazon. We'll help our friend Mr. Bezos out. Okay, so Zach, like, where in your lane, like, where do you see the world of creativity going in the next 5 years? Right, we talked about like there isn't really anything new under the sun. Right, we're just kind of like repurposing and recreating. So, like, where do you see things going in the next 5 years?
Yeah, I can't wait to hear other people's answers to this down the road. In my particular world, and I think this is maybe a lot of people's world now, and obviously the involvement of AI is insane. I'm seeing things now where traditionally a lot of the brands I've worked with have done, user generated content videos with real people. And all of a sudden there's now tools that you can plug and play and you get real people, AI people that are doing UGC for you all of a sudden. And they're creating, brand videos and they're influencers and things like that.
It's wild.
I've been amazed by the realness of some of the things that I've been seeing. And if I didn't know that it was an AI tool, like I would think it's a real person.
Yeah.
So I do think that there is some level coming here for that, at least in the kind of brand, ecosystem. And I think I think there's probably some scariness with that. Like, I think there's a lot of like mixed feelings and, especially as creators, it's like, is my ability to create going to be taken over by this, thing coming? But I think there's also a lot of opportunity to really create further and create things that we've never seen before too with it.
Yeah.
I'm trying to look at it from an optimistic side, and obviously there's a whole lot of positive reasons for it. But I think in the creative space, like it has allowed me to, I think, produce more concepts quicker, which is a big thing for clients, is we're able to test a lot more at scale. And so that's been awesome. And it's also helped guide a lot of feedback to as well. There's some really cool tools that analyze your ads and give you feedback on how everything's performing, and all of it's built with AI. And so I think that there's definitely, looking ahead, I think it's going to be here in some space. And it's just a matter of, how involved you want to make it. What are you all seeing in your world with AI? Is you kind of seeing the same, or what's been your experience?
I think Josh and I haven't like talked about that a ton. I think from my lens, I don't think AI will ever replace people when it comes to design. I think there is always, like we talked about in the beginning, like there is this human personalization that I think AI will get really close to when it comes to design. But I think there's just this like innate thing inside of people that will always kind of be able to tell, right? Like a dupe from the real thing, the real art. But I do think there is like an efficiency behind it that helps to speed up our processes. And it has allowed me more time to have that rest, right? Like when I'm working through a project, if I'm doing a first pass at writing copy or writing language for a client, or even like I have really leveraged it when we build websites for clients, we will take all of the language that we've crafted and we'll dump it into an AI tool and have it spit out a first draft of all of the website copy that we're looking for, give it all the parameters we need. And it really it accelerates so that we can get to market quicker. And it gives me more time where I'm not having to use that like initial brain power. I can go in and refine and add the human touch to it. And then I've got more time in my day to rest, to go on a walk, right? Like, so it's, I think while a lot of people are like, it's going to make us more efficient, we're going to crank out more content, I think I'm cranking out the same number of projects, but I'm giving myself more time in between moments of work to have that space. I also use it. I have become what I would say is a lazy dad, and I use it to write my kids' bedtime stories every night.
Cool.
If you're like, there are days, right, as a dad, you're like, man, I don't have a really funny story in me tonight. And so I created a thread in chat of a story my grandma used to tell me of like some made up cousins that I had. I had told our kids that story once and they loved it. And so now, like every night, ChatGPT writes us a bedtime story where Huck, Luck, Muck, and
Wow.
Elvis go off and have an adventure. Someone rips their pants, right? Like, and our kids are rolling in bed laughing. And now they love that process. Like, there's something that they love about watching that story come to life. And so there's even
It's
like
really
little
cool.
daily things like that that I think it's changing. Josh, what do you like? Where are you at in the world of AI?
Yeah, I was just going to speak on the efficiency side of things. I think it's interesting. It's almost like kind of what you were saying was like we go back to like the grind of working in marketing or agencies or whatever organizations you're in, and it's like at times you feel like you're having to cram 60-70 hours of work into a 40 hour work week, and so I think where AI has helped with that is like kind of what Alex was saying, where it gives you that space on the other end to rest, because maybe now you're actually doing those 60 hours within 40 hours, and it's actually way easier and way more efficient. And
Yeah.
I think too, the other side of things is like it's helped me visually just get different inspiration, see
Yeah.
things that maybe I haven't seen. Maybe I want to go a different direction within a project because of a prompt that the AI generator gave me, and I was like, oh, I hadn't really seen it that way, but that's really helpful. Let's take it and go in this direction a bit. And so it's like it's this weird aspect of like I'm learning from the robots almost, like they're teaching me
Right.
a different way, which is neat. It's funny because like, I mean, the scary part is like anytime I tell anybody I'm a designer or whatever, they're like one of the first questions now was like, how do you feel about AI? And I'm like, I feel great about AI. Like it helps me a ton. And well, do you feel like they're gonna take over your job? And I don't know. For me, it's like if they do, I'll just find something else to do. Like I'm not
Right.
super worried about it. Like there's plenty of jobs out there, I guess, if I absolutely have to find something. But at the end of the day, like I think at least for me, where it's at has been super helpful in the process of design and especially creating any sort of like I hate writing. I hate, things like that, like having to come up with any sort of
Yeah.
copy for different things. And it's like, I have a college degree, but I barely have a college degree, and like language, and I can barely speak English, I feel like at times. So to
It's
have to
true.
do any of that
Very
stuff,
true.
I welcome AI. I welcome its help with any sort of grammar and sentence formation, because I'm just not there with that. So
Heck yeah. I constantly take things that I write and I'll run it through a
Yep.
couple different platforms and be like, hey, did I spell things right? Because I know my computer has spell check, but it misses me. And two, did I use like the wrong word here? I meant to say like good and I said goat because I just typed that. Like,
Yep.
help me not look like a fool. So yeah,
yeah, it's
it's
funny because I remember
Great
like
prompt.
when like spell check came into like Microsoft Word, it was like the coolest thing ever, right? I was like,
right.
man, it's catching. There's so many red
Yeah.
squiggly lines on here. I didn't realize it was so bad. And AI is almost just like taking that and basically just forms my papers for me. I kind of wish I had it in college.
Oh
Yeah.
gosh, you would be
You guys
reckless
got to
with that in college.
get a college kid on here and ask them what they're up to, see what they're
Yeah, I
doing.
Oh,
know. I
Yeah.
know.
I know. I don't want to expose them though. I don't want their
Yeah.
professor to hear it. Be like, I'm so
Yeah,
sorry.
Anonymous.
we'll blur their
Yeah.
face and have to
Yes.
change their voice.
Awesome. Oh man. Well, Zach, dude, is there anything like super exciting, super fun for you on the horizon, personally, professionally, in your like creative pursuits?
Yeah, I would say. I mean, thanks for the advice on the book with kids. I have a 2.5-year-old daughter named Natalie, and right now I think I'm kind of in a season of I think just personally just trying to be a great dad, trying to be a great husband, and figuring out the world of parenting, as
Yeah.
you sounds like you both know. So I think from that side, just seeing it's amazing how much energy and even creativity I gain from her, watching her grow up and seeing the world through her lens is just incredible. I
Yeah,
really
dude.
think parenting it's being that close to a human and watching them getting to grow is truly one of life's greatest gifts. And I feel
Yeah.
very, very privileged to get to do it with her. So on the personal side, I think that, professionally, just trying to, I think for me, yeah, just try to disconnect a little bit more from a lot of the noise and really try to get more of a focus. I think I just turned 30 this month, so trying to, look ahead to,
Let's go.
yeah, what the past decade held and kind of what this next decade holds. And so trying to get a little more focus, I think, and I am trying to lean a little bit more into AI and just trying to understand the impact and where it can go and what it can do, and how it can service both my clients and also just, yeah, people better. I think is something I'm interested in moving forward. But yeah, appreciate
Yeah.
you all and the time here today. It's been a blast
Yeah,
kicking stuff
man.
around with you
Thanks
all.
for
Yeah,
joining us.
Yeah, dude, this has
yeah.
been awesome. And if you need advice as a 30-year-old, Josh is basically 40, so he's like halfway to death. So if you need anything, he's got the wisdom
That's
at this point.
perfect. Yeah,
Also,
that's what
I
I
know
need.
nothing about parenting, even though I have 3 kids. So if you get something figured out,
Yeah, true. Like,
Yeah,
we'll
that's
let's
have
what
help
I
each
help.
need.
other out
Yeah,
because it is wild trying to
I
parent.
do.
yeah,
I do love what you said though about kind of like being inspired by your daughter, because I see so much in my 8-year-old daughter, just creativity, and she's like
yep,
super into fashion. She got this like fashion set for Christmas that she's cutting up material and making these little dresses on these little models, and she loves it. Like she's
yeah,
all about
That's
art,
awesome.
and so it's just really cool. You're right. Like I gained so much inspiration from her, and
yep.
it kind of is just like this revitalization almost within a spark, a spark that kind of just reignites within my own self. So
That's
Hmm.
great. All right, Zach, last question for you. This is off the cuff. Josh and I, this isn't a basketball podcast. We've always talked about having that, but we've never done it.
Oh
But
no.
we're just going to insert it in here. What is your feeling on the Indiana Pacers? And do you think they're the best team in the NBA?
So
there
I
is a
hail
wrong
from
answer.
Illinois. Yeah, I hail from Illinois initially, so I'm a Bulls fan at heart. I've been in Indy now for 10 years, so I can confidently have an opinion, I think, on the Pacers. And even despite being in division, they're my number two team. My multiple friends work for the Pacers. It's a good org. I'm not going to say that they're the best team in the East right now, but I think they are the
Okay.
hottest team right now in the East.
They
Let's
are.
go.
And
Let's
yeah,
go.
so I think that they're climbing. They've made a big jump. I think they're in fourth or fifth right now. But man, I do like.
Also,
Go ahead.
oh no, I was going to say also I grew up in Illinois and dropped the Bulls when I moved to Indy. So
Hey,
There's a choice.
we got to remain loyal. I mean, they're going to be just bad forever. But one day I'm
Right.
hoping
But
that my
yeah,
confidence in them will pay off. At the end.
yes, that's respectable. We can take that as an answer.
I'm going to the
Well,
game
Zach,
here in a couple of weeks, so
let's go.
yeah,
Oh yeah. They
yeah.
play here in Indy,
Like
right?
early March, yeah, early March. So they'll
Yeah.
be here. Yeah,
It's
yeah,
going to be great.
yeah.
Well, Zach, dude, thank you so much for joining us. This has been a blast. I've learned a ton.
Sam,
I think it's been a super fun conversation.
yeah.
And thanks for all of you who are listening, watching, joining us on the Creative Belief podcast. We hope it's been a conversation that reminds you that you are a creative and you have something to add to the world to create beautiful things that make the world a better place. If you've loved the show, we'd love to have you subscribe, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, all those places. You can also follow along with our brand design studio, Creator Studio. It's at Creator Studio, and that's at CRTR Studio on Instagram. Zach, thanks, dude, and we will see you all on the next episode.